Yo, Sanjay Uche here. People bring you my review for Samurai Jack Season 5, Episode 9. Of course, I'm like literally a week late where this review is concerned, and I've just been lazy getting back to it. Actually, just executing and doing this review. But considering that tonight will be the final episode, I thought it was only right I get this review out before then. So, with all that said, let's get into it. So, episode 9 really and truly just picks up back where episode 8 left off, literally speaking, with Jack and Ashi kissing. Like, that was ridiculous. But, going forward, we get some comedy, like, right off the bat between them, them blaming the fluids of the monster they just killed to be the, the reason. Like, it was ridiculous. But this episode really and truly revolved around Aku finally finding out that Jack has lost his sword, courtesy of Scaramouche, that makes his way to Aku's hideout, and also revives Scaramouche. Well, more specifically, giving him back his body. But after Jack and Ashi basically have their little comedy scene in the beginning, Jack decides to continue the journey alone. What I did love about this episode, they still, even though Jack has essentially overcome all his, I guess, quote unquote, psychological issues that's been portrayed since the start of this season. They kind of still, I won't say psychological issues in this sense, but the fact that we get to see him talking to the old version of himself that we see with the beard and the long hair, before his fresh new look again, I thought it was a great touch to say, we still have these plot points from early on in the season still present. But that said and done, Jack being involved with Ashi is like, I mean, being involved with a woman to this degree is a first of Jack. Well, in the sense that of somebody in this future timeline that he really wants to protect. So he makes a decision to carry on the journey alone. The reason being, since Aku is essentially taking everything precious to him at this point, so he doesn't really want to anything to happen to Ashi. But of course, his worst fears are realized in this episode, of course, in typical story writing fashion. And Jack, well, there was a decent reference to the previous season before we even get to this point. Jack continues the journey alone, but he goes back to this area where we see him go through scraps of robots, and we see these broken glasses at one point. And that's, of course, a reference to, I believe, I'm not sure if this is the correct name for the character, the Gate Guardian. This blue guy he fought in previous season, who was basically the guardian of a time portal, but Jack, of course, lost to him. So I'm guessing Akuma must have taken him out. I'm guessing that's what was being implied here. But at this point, Ashi catches up to him, and Jack explains why he left. Aku shows up, of course, but at this point, Jack obviously has his sword. So Aku, in typical Aku fashion, being the comedian he is, tries to escape. And it's at this point that we get more context with regarding Ashi's birth, her and her sisters, of course, because as Aku's leaving, he quote unquote says he smells more of himself here, and of course he identifies his essence within Ashi. And of course we get a flashback, well, yeah, a flashback of, because Aku's basically putting two and two together, that when he visited the high priestess and her followers, I suppose, he left some of his essence in a cup and she drank it, and then somehow she got impregnated, and then she gave it birth to the six daughters. You know the story. So there was that. So of course Aku decides to take control of Ashi and set her against Jack. um of course, I'm pretty sure a lot of people could have predicted that, but I think the thing that's cool about this season, that even stuff you could have predicted, even the Jack and Ashi stuff in terms of them getting together, like it's like this one thing where you can predict, but it's not bad that you can predict it. So I guess that does have its merits. But all in all, We really and truly conclude the episode with Jack and Ashi making a few physical exchanges, and Jack deciding that he can't go through with killing Ashi, and of course drops the sword, and Aku grabs the sword, and that's basically your episode in a nutshell. In a nutshell. Um, of course, the pacing of the episode, as usual, is pretty good. I really have no complaints. The action still, in terms of choreography, of course, still pretty good for what we got. Comedies, I think the comedy in this episode was pretty good as well, especially when we have the scene in the beginning of Jack basically telling Ashi about his past, her asking if Jack had a girl before. um, a lot of comedy moments, I suppose, but we're gonna wrap up, of course, in episode 10, and of course, based on earlier episodes, we can tell that he's gonna meet up with the Scotsman, and they're gonna probably storm Aku's hideout and probably finish this fight once and for all. Of course, my prediction is all the people Jack helped in the past will join him for his final confrontation with Aku. And I don't know. I don't think I can make any predictions on if Ashi will live. Like, I'd want her to live, but I think the better question is if Jack will even make it back to the past, or if he'll stay here in the future. That's I guess we'll see. But all in all, it was a pretty good episode. As you've heard me say time and time again, no episode in this season can get less than a 9 out of 10 for me in terms of quality. But that said, I'm looking forward to the final episode of this awesome series because it's not only the final episode of the season, but considering it's the last season, it is the final episode of the entire series on the whole. So I'm hoping it goes out with a bang. And this is Sanjay Uchiha. Rate, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you thought about this review. Check out my other content, and I'll see you in the next one.